This presentation will be going over the why, what, who, and how of education. Much of the idea framework comes from the philosophers such as Plato and Quintilian, who have helped build the foundation of education today. Why should we teach? Human beings have a natural want to learn, and teaching feeds that want. In Chapter 1 of the Quintilian, the book reads, "You will find that most are quick to reason and ready to learn. Reasoning comes as naturally to a man as flying to birds, speed to horses, and ferocity to beasts of prey." Quintilian is arguing that the want to learn is a natural instinct to human beings, meaning that everybody wants it, and really is not fully human without wanting it. He goes on to say that young children show growth in learning new things, but as they get older, this success dies away if there is a lack of care. That care can be defined as education. E.D. Hirsch, a professor from the University of Virginia, argues that education can break the cycle of poverty in poor families. Poor families are often illiterate families who tend to remain poor and illiterate, keeping the pattern going through generations. One educated child can use their education to find a good-paying job and break the poverty cycle in their family. This will likely bleed into the next generation. The classical period in ancient Greece saw many forms and ideas of education, the most popular by the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. In Plato's Republic, Book 2, Plato explores the question of whether it is better for a person to supply everything on their own, such as food, shelter, clothes, etc., or to focus on the one occupation and trade with others. He decided having a focus would be better. This is where the idea of a state was born, where helpers gather together and exchange with each other. This supplies many jobs for civilians in which they will need to be educated in order to do the job efficiently. To sum it all up, people need to be taught in order to do a job which keeps civilization running efficiently. This leads into what should we teach? Plato describes the 7 liberal arts as not the idea for education, but the necessity. First is grammar. Grammar is what reading and writing fall under. E.D. Hirsch says that reading and writing are the most important subject that should be taught, since communication is necessary. We need to be able to communicate for things such as buying and selling, expressing our thoughts, learning new information, and even for social skills. Logic or dialect is the study of what it means for humans to make an argument or to have an opinion with logic. Rhetoric is the art of persuasive speaking and writing. Arithmetic studies the basic principles of numbers such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. In Plato's Republic, Book 7, Plato describes military skills as arithmetic skill due to the amount of numbers involved in the field. Geometry studies shapes and the mathematical representation of them. Astronomy studies shapes in motion, which is modernly known as physics. Music studies numbers in motions such as harmonic ratios. These are just the simplest baselines of education, which are branched out and studied more in depth when you reach higher levels of education. This leads us into who should we teach? Quintilian was very passionate about teaching children at a young age. He urges educators to teach young because the early years is when their memory is most retentive. That being said, he also wrote about not teaching them too young. Also in Chapter 1 of the Quintilian, he said not to teach until 7 years old. Any age younger than that may not receive information quite yet. From my experience, I have always been used to children starting kindergarten or even sports at the age of 5. If the child's brain has trouble remembering letters and numbers, that is okay. The most important subject to learn when first going to school is social skills. E.D. Hirsch describes literate culture as the most democratic culture in our land. It excludes nobody. It cuts across generations and social groups and classes. Education should be accessible to any person, any age, gender, race, or social class. Learning was not created for a specific type of person, but for everyone. As mentioned before, learning is a natural human want, meaning any and every human should have the opportunity to feed that want. Who we should teach goes hand in hand with how we should teach. If we are going to focus on teaching children at a young age, methods and systems need to be modified for them as well. As Plato said in Book 2 of Plato's Republic, the beginning of any work is the most important. and so is the beginning of a child's education. First, we cannot just let anyone teach. Teachers should be certified so that they are teaching the correct things and in an appropriate manner, depending on age and subject. I believe the most important philosophy when it comes to how to teach is encouragement. Another natural human want is acceptance from others, and encouragement contributes to this. Quintilian says that the child should even be taught to celebrate their own accomplishments as well, not just the teacher. Quintilian also argues that the child should never hate their studies. Rather, they should love them and want to keep learning. This means learning should not be forced. While I agree teachers should do what they can to make learning pleasing, there are some subjects that students will not like, but they must learn regardless. This is where they need to learn to step outside of their comfort zone, another important philosophy when it comes to education. Another philosophy Quintilian mentioned in chapter 1 of his book is that children should not be asked to do more than their powers allow, since it will make them lose confidence. I disagree with this statement because I believe that in order to strengthen that confidence, they need to overcome difficult tasks. Teachers should not be giving students only what they know the student can do. Rather, they should challenge their brains in order for them to develop. While every teacher has their own methods of teaching, they should all allow time for students to relax. Our brains were not made only to work, but they require rest in order to keep developing properly.